Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm very happy today to be joined by these two beautiful ladies. So we have first here my partner, my beautiful Mer, and on the
Hi.
other side we have Von Galt. She's she's responsible for these Buddhist mandalas books that are taking a beautiful look at not just the Buddhist mandalas in an artistic sense, like oh this color, this shape, whatever, but also as to what their metaphysical implications are, as far as I'm understanding. And well, so Von is very. I find her very interesting to listen to, and I have a great affinity with what she teaches. So I was very excited to have her join. So welcome, Von, to Mystic Times. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Hi, Raphael and Rafa?
Yeah.
Rafa? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited. I love these topics, and I never really get a opportunity to have a male and a female couple hosts and to ask me questions about these higher energies, living in the higher energies and higher consciousness. Pertaining to relationships and family and the children. So we're gonna kind of skip past like the 3D religions and go straight to the more advanced stuff that is coming in really quickly. So for those people who are already there going, okay, we're here, now what? This is the conversation for you.
Yeah, we are. We've been diving into the idea of reality creation for some time, and it's been so incredible and such a fast acceleration in our lives since we started playing with those concepts.
Mhm.
Um, Mer, I don't know if you wanted to just say hi or mention
Yeah,
anything
well,
before we start
thank you
the
for
interview.
the invitation. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm here to enjoy these conversations about all this mystic stuff. So,
Yeah, well, let me
yeah.
ask you two some questions because
Mhm.
you guys have coming into these higher levels of consciousness in different ways. And what have you been experiencing as you get into these concepts that you're studying and applying in your life? What have you been experiencing?
Mm. I am for me today. I was just reflecting on. I listened to one of your recent shows, and I was reflecting on some of the changes in my life in during. I think I started with the idea of reality creation like around something like 1 year ago, or maybe a year and a half, something like that, and it was very slow at the start, like okay, let's give this a try, just because. But suddenly you start getting more clear on what you want, and you start getting more clear on on how to ask for it. And and today I was reflecting particularly on a on a change that it's very personal. I'm getting emotional, but I've
Go
sensed
ahead.
my father changing his personality very much. Like he used to be a bit more negative, and he still is kind of that way. But I've seen him grow and become more even uh, affectionate, and smiling more and trying new stuff, things that
And that's not how he used to be?
not
Never?
at all, no.
Mm.
Oh, but you know your father, you've had him your whole life. You know how his personality type.
Yeah.
So so because you were doing your inner work in
Mhm.
raising your consciousness and your frequency, the father that you have started to adjust to your new frequency, which was much
Yeah,
more
and
peaceful and loving.
I've
Mm.
sensed that kind of thing with people around me
Mm.
since I started on my spiritual journey, perhaps 7, 8, or around 10 years ago, perhaps. I sensed that kind of like reality shifting a little bit to conform to the inner work, but it was a lot more subtle, like. Um, because
Let me ask you something,
yeah.
Rafa. Your father, this is the history has it had are there elements in the history that's slightly different?
No, I don't think so. At least
Not
not.
yet. Okay.
I haven't poked into questions of that
Okay.
yet. Yeah, I know what you mean. That you've had cases of people with stuff like that, but I haven't asked, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
But before it was like people getting um, like when you're starting your journey and you're like, no, that person should change before I, but then they tell you, no, you do your inner work and the outside world will change accordingly. And
Yep.
it's not, at least for me, it wasn't taught to me in a very metaphysical way. It was more like
Mm-hmm.
you will be changing your own attitude and people will be responding to that. But now it's more like you're sometimes interacting with another person or with another version of the person. Or
Mm-hmm.
we've talked, you've talked sometimes about timelines, and yeah, maybe I've mentioned it on an interview or another. Uh, Timeline jumping, and I don't know, there's something weird that we're doing, and it's not weird really, we've always been doing it, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're all doing it. It's what we're doing is we're shifting into different realities based off of our inner compass, our inner frequency. And I've proven this in book 1 of Buddhist Mandalas, Explore Parallel Realities with Sacred Geometry. Um, and you can come into this on your own, and there's many different ways in which you can come into this. So everybody's going to have a different journey. But the first book, Buddhist Mandalas, when people read that, it just as a caution, do not be surprised that it will rewire your consciousness to a higher fifth dimensional level or higher frequency. Okay. Just by studying sacred geometry and understanding that you are energy. That's all you are, is your energy. It's been scientifically proven that you are energy. And in Buddhism, we call it mandalas. In Judaism, they call it your Merkaba. It's your aura field. You know, whatever names you want to call it. I've proven it very concretely with science and also Buddhist knowledge that we are energy. And these are the avatars, the sims in which we get to play in. The storyline we picked from the catalog of the Akashic records of the universe. Okay. And we are all fractal expressions of source code of the universal consciousness, what we would call the universe, God, Allah. It doesn't matter what you call it. And Earth is one of an expanded list of existences that our souls could have incarnated into. And I proved that very, very succinctly in book 1 of Buddhist Mandalas. So I also work with a lot of clients around the world. Um, you know, I work IT in the daytime, a normal working mom, and then I do this stuff for fun and also just to provide my services. But as people come into real awakening, okay, in Buddhism, awakening is someone who realizes that they exist in a holographic reality that is responding to the commands of its user, which results in consciously creating both individually and collectively. So what does that mean? What a real awakening mean? That means your reality is going to be different from what you previously experienced. That's literally what that means. Okay, so if you're thinking you have an awakening and you haven't gotten your own personal Mandela effects, where I just actually had a client 2 days ago who wanted to raise her consciousness, and she didn't understand this concept of shifting realities within your psyche and your consciousness. That the outside world is just shifting to match you. You're just going from one version of reality to another, and she didn't understand that. And so I asked her some questions, and she vehemently told me, "No, Nelson Mandela died in prison. I watched it on the news. He died in prison with my family. We watched it." And I said, "Are you sure?" And she said, "Yes." And then I asked her about about some other things like Ed McMahon. And she said, yes, in my childhood, I watched the commercials of Ed McMahon delivering those prize checks with the balloons and the prize van. I watched it every single time when they were going to announce it. I remember that that was my childhood. And then I had her look at her phone, and none of that happened.
Hmm.
It does not happen in this reality.
Mm.
It took her 10 minutes to compose herself before we got into the session because she just had physical evidence that she had experienced something that does not exist anymore. She
Yeah,
has went to a different reality, and that's just the fun stuff, the local stuff. But when people come into consultation and they're having it happen in their personal life, where people in their family are, since they start doing this inner work, are different than they remember. Like overnight, instantly, they're different than they remember. Some people will even get people in their family or even themselves who have different eye color than they remember. I just did a book interview with the interviewer. He comes from a family. He has green eyes for his whole life. It changed to brown after he had read one of the books and started trying to dive into this stuff to just kind of because he was curious about it. So he went from conspiracies to conspirituality.
Mhm.
So, anyways, but his eye color change has been like that for months now, and lots of these kind of things happen. People are going, why is this happening to me in my life? Why are people in my life completely changed, sometimes a completely different back history? And I'm arguing with my family about what happened in certain things because they experience something different than what I experienced. I have clients who have that. So these almost kind of like spiritual crises is happening more often as you get further and further into this, and it's not something to be scared of. It's very, very normal.
Mhm.
In Buddhism, we call it um, your awakening. Is you're starting to become aware of reality, and aware person within the matrix, within the dharma, the nature of reality, is what we call Buddha.
Mhm.
Okay. So everyone who is aware of them navigating between different versions of reality is a Buddha because they are aware.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay. So if you don't know that you are shifting between different versions of reality and there's different people that you are engaging with upon different shifts, you're not there yet. You haven't had a real awakening because it gets very metaphysical. You have dominion over reality.
Mhm.
And that's what we taught Yeshua ben Yosef in the schools when he was alive. And so we also taught it to Miriam Magdala, which is in book 2, you guys. It's
Mhm.
coming out. This is the proof version. So in about another week or two, I'll actually approve it to be bought. But this is Tara, and she's another female Buddha. And she teaches about liberating from the matrix.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what that's the shirt that Rafa has is Kuan Yin, and she is the Bodhisattva and also a Buddha that liberates from the matrix as well. And she's on the first cover of Buddhist Mandalas 1. This is the proof version that I have, but the real one doesn't have that. But anyways, she's wonderful in kind of easing you into it. And then Tara for book 2, it's wonderful in kind of shaking
Mm.
you out of your slumber and getting you to, all right, are you ready for next level existence? Because it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. So, but that is an awakening. And because people are awakening worldwide and they're getting these reality shifts, now all of a sudden the concept of not focusing so much on out there changing
Mhm.
makes sense.
Mhm.
But you were
Yeah.
Bec-
saying just now, until you have um, Mandela effects in your life, you're not there quite yet.
yeah, you're not as aware. So it's like this. We are all energy, and we all set up um, different things to happen in our lives. This is the vessel in which we chose to write our story for this chapter of our soul's existence. But a lot of people, it's almost like you're driving blindfolded. You're kind of a drunk driver in the dark, and you're kind of stumbling from one reality to another, and you're kind of going, oh, that's different, and then you're not paying attention, and you go, something else pops out of the blue, and you just, oh, you just push it aside, and you just, most people are just basically driving around unconscious, not knowing that they are just they are shifting realities.
Mm.
And then maybe one day they meet a passerby or something happens in their life and they start doing their inner work, and all of a sudden they start learning how to navigate their merkaba, their vessel, a little bit more clearly. They start paying attention to the road and the things around, and the experience is much more pleasant, and the ride is much more pleasant. So that's the difference between somebody who is aware of navigating between realities and creating from within the different elements of reality within their psyche and themselves, and somebody who's doing it unconsciously,
Mm.
waiting for everything out there to change before they, you know, and in Buddhism, we talk about is your consciousness. What level of consciousness are you at? What level of awareness? Because as you raise your energy up higher and higher, everything around you
Mm.
will change to match that higher frequency.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just like Rafa, when you started, you're saying that you came into this stuff looking at the conspiracies and looking at some kind of fun fringe elements, and then you started to really try it out for a change, and you started doing your inner work. You started kind of trying to not focus so much on everybody out there being what you want them to be, not focus so much on the world being utopian like right now, but just accepting everybody's having their life lessons and they're going through the journey, and you start working on your own inner stuff, and then all of a sudden those negative hostile elements of society started leaving you, and the ones that are more pleasant started coming attracted to you. That's how it works. It's subtle. It's not an instant. If all of a sudden you saw a skyscraper pop out of the blue, it might scare you a little bit. That's happened to me so a lot. Where I'm like, oh, that's a different building.
Mm.
That's a 6 foot tall building
Yeah, and the
overnight.
story of my own, but we have a very shared spiritual journey. It basically started for both of us kind of around the same time. Uh, before we knew each other, we were both going through through awakening moments, and then we met while at the same time meeting our spiritual teacher, and so it was kind of a fast track for us. uh,
Hmm.
but maybe that's another story, because it's super interesting and
Well,
emotional,
how did you
but
guys
it's
meet
long.
each other? Because like always attracts like. Okay,
Mm.
so you guys have the same energy. So how did you guys
Well,
get
last
pulled together?
last week I was remembering that in 2012, that year for me was like a big portal that changed my whole reality. So
Mm.
what you said is so real for me, because I feel like this one is another
Mm.
completely different version. I don't know, it's I
What was the old version of you like in the other reality?
like living in so deep into 3D and so disconnected from herself and from his purpose in life or her intuition. And it's very weird because when I look to my childhood, I can remember that at night you talk about childs and all these experiences they are having. And I
Hmm.
remember that when I went to sleep, I always could see like galaxies, always when I was very very little. And I don't have many memories about that year, but I remember that when I went to sleep every night, I saw these kind of galaxies, like I was floating there. And I never asked my mother or nobody around, because deep inside I knew like everybody can see this. It's not that I am special or everyone can see this. It was
Mm-hmm.
like a truth. I don't know. But then something happened. I don't know. We forget, and I was living like a life that was not meant for me. I don't know if it sounds like crazy, but I can see now like a puzzle that everything I was walking was not the life that was meant for me. So suddenly I was walking this path that was
Mm-hmm.
so 3D structured, and something dissolved this, uh, like a deep grief and a connection with death. And I saw it in a so compassionate way, and I was so present, and I was just like 19 years old, so
Mm-hmm.
it was huge for me, but I could live it with so strength, and
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that I was able to hold the space for a people so dear into me dying
Yeah.
alone in another country. And then I started like remembering these episodes from my
Mm-hmm.
childhood and connecting to my intuition. And then when everything stopped there, I knew a new chapter was evolving and starting. And I came back to Uruguay, and I was like so attracted to this city that I never lived here before. And I literally went to his shop door. I knocked there, and he was the receptionist there.
Uh-huh.
It was a hotel. So
Ah!
I remember that when I saw him, I was lost in his eyes, and I'm like, wow, this is the guy I write that I wanted to meet. Like every detail, I when I was so lonely in another country and
Mm-hmm.
having this sad experience, one day I wrote down like all the characteristics of a guy I wanted to meet and my future life and all that. And suddenly when I travel and I was here and he opened the door, I was like so surprised that he was like just this guy I described in this piece of paper. Everything, a
Yeah.
musician, everything. So it was like so huge that moment. And at the same
Yeah.
time, we were meeting our teacher. I didn't know it was my first spiritual teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And then we travel and we have many things in common. We spend
It's
hours and
easy.
hours, yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
talking, and it was amazing. So
Yeah.
that thing that you started to experience and everything changed around, I feel that every time I go to a place, everything changes. I don't know, like for
You
example
can
the
almost see
feeling.
it happen too. When you go to a place,
Yeah,
all the people who are feuding and fighting, they slowly get up and they leave the restaurant.
yeah,
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 And
yeah,
then all of a sudden new people that are happy come in. The
yeah,
shift changes.
yeah, and
It change.
even perhaps we moved from one place to another, and in the new place that we moved, different people started moving out and
yeah.
being replaced by people with better with more
Energy.
positive energy.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what you describe, Mercedes, is basically, you know, it all happens so sudden, like very, very subtle. It's not like a drastic change, but when you look back at it, you're like, wow,
yeah.
I'm in a completely different
Mm,
space. But
mhm,
as it's happening, it's all very subtle. You
mm,
know, it's like following the wind. You slowly walk away from the bad weather into
mm,
shelter, and then you slowly come out when the sun comes up. And it's just very smooth and gradual. But as you get into this and you become more aware of reality as it's happening, you can actually see the energy change in environments that you go on, and that you go in, and you can see the energy in, or feel the energy in, different rooms, in different events, and go, I'm not really feeling that, or I'm really feeling this, or whatever. So, you have to have that intuitive knowing. But those are normal six senses, and people who are of higher frequency, who are working on raising their consciousness, is going to tune into, source code much, much easier, and everything works much, much more clear. It's like your navigation in your car is much, much more clear. It's going to be much more intuitive. Your intuition, your spirit guides, your heart set, whatever you want to call it, that attune to nature is going to be much more, in sync with you. It's a much, much more pleasant way of living. You don't have to try so hard and fight so hard, because you know that everything is just changing to reflect what's in here.
mm,
So who cares what happens out there?
mm.
Let them figure it out. They'll learn. Eventually they will all get to the place where they're focusing on what's in here and to their level of consciousness. And there's a lot, Buddhism is one way, and that's what I talk about, but there's a lot of other ways, and a lot of great, South American, shamanism and other traditions that can also get you there as well, and that you can learn and grow from and continue to grow from, because it is an evolution.
Mm,
So, as you change from one version of yourself and you have learned what you learn, um, then if you want to go to greater experiences, you will evolve and accept another version of yourself.
mm.
And just, it's like changing clothes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if you're going to go to a dinner party, you change out of your flip-flops from the beach. You're just changing clothes. And when you change clothes, you have a slightly, you're still you. But you have a slightly different demeanor. You talk slightly different if you're in the country club as compared to just randomly, on the beach, eating street tacos or whatever. Yeah, so all we're doing is changing clothes. It's still us. We're just changing the experience and changing the equipment that we go into. And so, like, if I am, like, Mira, what you were saying is, you had, it was almost like, a death of the old version of you when you embrace another version of you, a much higher version of you. But you still appreciate the older version of you for what it went through and getting you here and all of that. So all of the different versions of you are valid because they get you from place to place, and you're taking them all with you for the journey as you increase and go into higher and higher experiences. Okay, so never think that, when one version of you is dead, it's it's a sad thing. It is happy that you are stepping it up, because it's going to go there with you. All of the versions of you go with you to the higher elements, and they all get, consolidated. So the thing that's interesting also, in book 2 of Buddhist Mandalas, Christ Consciousness of a Multidimensional Merkaba, is that because we are all traveling in our mandalas, in our aura and energy fields, um, timelines can collapse.
Mhm,
And as timelines collapse, because I'll have clients who go, when they're questioning reality shifts and changes of reality within their conscious, I'll have a set of clients who say, um, I remember seeing Nelson Mandela die in prison. And then I have a set of clients who say, no, I watched him become president of South Africa, and he died in his late 90s. Two different type of clients that are sitting in my office, talking about weird nuances in their reality and the things that are happening to them, that they can't really quite put their hands or grasp this whole consciousness phenomenon that's happening to them. And so you have two different people, two different sets of people sitting here talking about this stuff. So what does that say? The timelines are collapsing.
mm,
people from different timelines are collapsing into the same one. Okay, because for whatever reason they're matching and coming into the same one. So usually when consciousness creates some kind of uh, dual nature polarity, like up, down, right, left, good, bad, when they start collapsing thing, that means that it's a metamorphosis. Something else is better is going to come out of it.
Mhm.
Okay, kind of like a flower bloom,
Mm.
like a lotus. so it is kind of scary when you're living through metamorphosis because people are kind of crazy. Society acts really weird because not everybody is aware of what is happening to themselves and to reality. And so if you are at some point you just shut off the monkey mind and the chaos of the world and just go in and work on in, you will navigate through this bubble reality much more smoothly.
Yeah.
And and it's going to be much more pleasant experience as compared to other people who are, like I said earlier, driving through reality with blindfolds, just kind of like crashing here and crashing there and getting angry at everybody and everything for being in their way.
Even you don't feel scared or fear if something so dramatic like what happened last year happened. You are like, you have like a serene confidence, like everything's gonna be okay and everything was meant to be like that, and everything is perfect. So you just have like this trust. I don't know, it's like you ride smoothly, like you say, you are
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
don't know, you don't worry,
You
and
don't worry. Just
everything is evolving just the way it has to be, and you are always in confidence. And that's
mhm.
something I discovered during all this portal thing, and it's very interesting, your books and what and your labor, because when I started, I also started painting my mandalas,
Mm.
and I don't know
Mhm.
why. One night, I suddenly wake up and paint mandalas, and for a while, I was painting this kind of.
What kind of mandalas were you painting? Were they just all a little different?
Yeah, they were all different, and I don't know. One night, I painted like 16 mandalas in one night,
That's
and
16 different people that you're going to attract into your life that have different energy signatures.
wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, this was many years ago, so
Yeah.
sure this
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were just feeling the energy of different because each mandala that
Wow.
you felt compelled to draw are slightly different from another and they all have a different energy signature when you look at them. They all feel a little different. Those are 16 different portraits of people that you're
Yeah,
going to
no, but
track into your
every
life.
Mhm.
every one of them was really different and with so many details. And then I started painting them like in from 2D to painting in acrylics,
Mhm.
because I felt like acrylic is like with water, and it's, I don't know, I feel like really in tune with my intuition,
Mhm.
the water element. So then I started painting this on wood, and yeah, I don't know, it was like a amazing
Mm.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good exercise, and you might be painting the mandala of some of your future offspring
Mm.
coming through.
Oh well, I don't.
So,
Mm.
well, we'll find out. Yeah, yeah, they'll go through the art and they'll pick the one that they like. That's me. I like this one. I want this one. So, but yes, the thing that's very interesting about this is because you know a lot of my sixth sense clients also have children, and a lot of their children also have dormant sixth senses that are coming in. So their parents are or the adults are coming into their awakening, or they've been awakened and they're getting further into it and they're leveling up their ascension process, which is, I mean, ascension is basically raising your energy field. That's all it is. Ascending. That's
Mhm.
it. ascending. You just say ascending and raising your energy field by living the best version of you. And as a result of living the best version, a more positive version of you, you actually affect yourself and those around you. And they've already scientifically proven this. So you put negative people into a positive environment, the positive people are going to leave or they're going to turn negative. You put positive people into a negative environment, the negative people are either going to become positive or they're going to leave.
Mhm.
You know, that's basically, it's a very simple formula. So you don't go anywhere for your ascension. There's nowhere to go. It's not going to go. There's nowhere to go. That's all thinking out there. That's still thinking out there.
Mm.
It's within your level of consciousness. You raise your consciousness up to a higher dimensional awareness, a higher perception of reality, and the outside world matches you.
Yeah, and you
That's just
mentioned
very simple.
also like because I'm feeling like the earth, or I like to call it, well, not me, but everyone calls that way, like this Gaia consciousness that is like
Mm-hmm.
feminine um, energy of the earth is not like the planet, the 3D rock floating in the galaxy, but
Mm-hmm.
a feminine consciousness that is Gaia, that is the
Yep.
consciousness of earth, that is rising too. So we are rising with her. What
Mm-hmm.
is your thoughts about this? Because you mentioned this a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done a lot of book interviews about this, but basically a lot of indigenous cultures worldwide at around 2012, some did it a little bit earlier, but you have Native American tribes, Mayans, you have Polynesian tribes of Easter Island tribes, you have Buddhism. I mean, a lot of cultures all over the world, and they didn't all, you know, become movies like 2012 did with the Mayans. But basically, all we did was acknowledge the end of a cycle on Earth, her processional cycle, and that's it. And then after this processional cycle ended at around 2012, which in Buddhism is 2555, the Buddhist era, which is a number of change, which is changing over to a new cycle. And the new cycle is when humanity, and there is no time frame. It all happens within everybody's consciousness. Okay, so there's no prophecy where you sit there. It's going to happen on March so date on 2025. It's going to be right in. No, that's thinking out there again. That's still thinking out there. It happens within you. And it doesn't matter if you're living in what you think is a 3D world or a 5D world. I mean, there's fifth dimensional people living in a 3D world. I mean, what do you think Yeshua was?
Mm.
Kuan Yin, Buddha, 5D in a 3D world.
Hmm.
Mm.
All right. Lucky for everybody else. But luckily for us in this time, there's so many people who are of higher consciousness, and they're beyond the push pull, the tribal feuds, the religious indoctrinations. They're beyond that, and there's a lot of those people. And I have a podcast where I talk Buddhism in the fifth dimension, and it's basically all about consciousness, just raising your consciousness. So Earth changed over at around 2012, and she was already doing it naturally. And I've proven this with the Schumann resonance in the first Buddhist mandalas book. And what they found is that she was increasing her hertz frequency. So just like they measure earthquakes,
Mm.
a pending earthquake coming to happen, they measured the Earth's Schumann resonance, which is like her heart song, and it was slowly spiking. But then after 2012, it was spiking even higher. So what they found in science is that when the Earth, her electric magnetics spike, um, they found that out of studying 80 different countries, some had renaissance and wonderful things happened in the society, and others had warfare.
Mm.
And it's the same thing that you apply in your life. In these higher energies, if you have issues in your life and you have issue with yourself in society, what is going to come up for you is your problems so you can work on it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if you don't work on it, it will come back in another creative way to
Mhm.
work on it. And it'll keep coming back faster and faster and faster until you work on it.
Mhm.
It's not a punishment, it's a gift.
Mhm.
And that's what they found happened when they studied 80 different countries whenever the earth does these higher energies that she brings in. On the flip side, for the countries and for the people who have worked on their dense issues about themselves and about society, and they have learned from their life lessons, they've learned to create much more responsibly. Um, w- what is going to come up is more of who they are, is more opportunities, more peace, more abundance. It's actually quite easy. It's not very hard to understand. It's very simple. So for couples like you and for people like me and my family, there's a pandemic, but it's been very smooth and pleasant. It hasn't really been a struggle. We've just been playing with the whole thing.
Mhm.
It's almost like yeah, it's almost like I've had people who go, I don't know how you can say 2020 was or 2021 is a wonderful year. I say, well, technically for me it was. I started a podcast. I wrote 2 Buddhism books.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah,
Yeah, it was the same
my
for us. We like went deeper into our work as meditation guides, or what's the name, the meditation
Instruct.
instructors, and our work with myself with sound healing, uh,
mhm,
and working with groups. And we even saw the opportunity when the thing started back in March last year to offer free guided sessions like meditations and breathing exercises and stuff for our friends and our community and the people that
right.
follow us on Instagram. And it was like a very expansive year for us, even though there was some unknowns, some fears, some all of that is acknowledged, but you don't give in to that. You
Don't get
say,
stuck in there.
exactly,
Yeah.
you say, okay, this is the terrain that I'm working with, but I'm still going to continue doing my inner work, because I know that whatever I work in myself radiates outside, and whatever returns back is what's best, even though it
Mhm.
might look like something dangerous or something very scary.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
during lockdown, I was, ¿cómo se dice?
Mhm.
Convocada.
Called.
I was called to give advice or meditations and yoga classes to different empresas,
Businesses or
business, business offices, and
Mhm.
things like you sometimes
mm,
judge because you think, oh, they are so into 3D and they are in this mentality. But suddenly they were calling my services, and I was just working here at home. And for me, it was like yeah, it was not that difficult. So
Yeah. So your business kind of grew. Now, are you charging for your businesses? Because you could do pro bono. I do pro bono as well, but you also have value, and people you should charge for your services.
mm,
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
just like doctors charge for their
mhm.
time.
yeah,
Okay, they do pro bono as well, but
yeah, we were doing both things at
okay,
that
good.
time.
You got to
So
be able to support your livelihood.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's
it's
nothing wrong with.
I think
Yeah.
it's a very important lesson in the spiritual journey when you start developing, I don't know, abilities or things that you can share with others to help them in their healing and in their journey.
Hmm.
One of the very important uh, things to work on yourself is, okay, do you dare to charge for your services? How much are you going to charge?
Mm.
Find the
Find the
don't
balance.
yeah, don't be like, oh no, spirituality, oh then it has to be free,
Mm.
because you still have to
Mm-hmm.
pay your bills at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
person will benefit more and will be more open to receive whatever you can offer if they have an investment that is
Yep.
valuable for them.
Yep. They have to buy into it. They have to buy into it. You know, that's it's the same as if this wonderful food is free, people are like, what's the catch?
Mhm.
Or maybe they'll get it, but then they won't give you such a great review as if somebody, you know, charged something for the same plate of tacos on the beach, and they go, oh, this is really great,
Right.
because they bought into it. So there's something that happens in human consciousness, that like we have to put we have to do an exchange. If we
Mhm.
don't do a fair exchange, then we don't feel like that we're going to get equal gratification.
Right.
So yeah,
And
that's a really important lesson.
you say buying into it, and also what comes for me is another word that is belief. So when you buy into
Yes.
something, is because you're believing it, and if, and people believe in money more than many other things. So it's a good way of buying into the belief that whatever
Hmm.
this person is going to share is going to help me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And money, if you just replace money as love, you're just exchanging love. You're just exchanging love. That's all it is. I'm going to give you a competitive amount of love for what you're giving me. You're pricing yourself competitively.
Mm.
So you're not undervaluing your services or yourself and your time and your energy, because it is draining. It's very draining to offer these yoga classes and meditation classes and facilitate consultations and all of that. And you offer a service that helps people um, move forward in life. It uplifts them. It's like a psychologist or a counselor charging for their time. You're doing the same thing. So as people get into their awakening and their ascension work, and they start looking and exploring, especially with people like you two who are very entrepreneurs type, they start looking at ways to kind of be more 5D, more fifth dimensional or higher in their business. And I get a lot of clients who come in for consultation, hypnosis, sixth sense consultation, and how can I incorporate some of this metaphysical stuff into my business? Um, and it's very, very easy. So I have a client who is starting a healing retreat, but she loves to paint. Her husband loves to do workout. They also love to cook and eat. They want to try a garden. So they want to have all these interests. And it was very, very simple. Set up your bed and breakfast, healing retreat, offer workshops throughout the day, your painting workshop, meditation workshop, yoga workshop, your breathing exercises workshop. Give everybody a dowsing rod. Go walk the nature trails in your property and go and look for fairy rings and portals and high energy. I mean, they just and at once they started looking at all these different ways, at their garden, they can teach organic gardening workshops, and then also cooking workshops with the produce that they grow in their garden. They do 3-course menus for date night and dinners that they offer on their ranch. I mean, once they started thinking creatively about how they can use these these higher energy type of services, they it they ran out of paper to put on their brochure because they offer so much. So they had to kind of pare down. So see how easy it is when you're thinking those higher dimensions and you're thinking those higher levels of consciousness, how easy it is to find new ways to create your livelihood and still have so much fun doing it. So definitely lots of services to offer and a lot of people loving all these different offerings as well. So there's some ideas for you guys in your business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted
Y-
to go a little bit into the idea of sixth senses.
Six senses.
uh,
Yeah, yeah.
because you were um, I mean, we just came back from a vacation, so
Ooh,
we
where
we,
to?
we took a few days because we've been working so much and not valuing the need for downtime, for rest, for reconnecting with nature. So we went to a place in the coast,
Mm.
Uruguay, in the eastern coast. It's extremely beautiful and very very what you call very untouched, very few houses and lots of nature, and there's there's prairies, there's beach, there's the ocean, there's everything,
Mm-hmm.
trees, there's birds, there's cows, whatever. and
Everything.
and something that happened to me particularly is that one evening when I was going, I'm doing the Reiki. I'm doing the 21 days of self Reiki, and
Mm-hmm.
I was doing one of those, and at some point, I very clearly heard voices that immediately I knew it was other people's thoughts. You
And
know,
what were they saying? What were
I
they saying?
I don't really remember what they were saying. It was more like
What did it feel like?
yeah, it was like worrying or being
Yeah.
unable to disconnect from the energy of the city, perhaps people that just got there or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was that kind of of sense, but I intuitively knew it wasn't mine, it wasn't some other being speaking. It was, oh wow, these are people's thoughts. So I was like very in tune perhaps at that moment, and I
Mm-hmm.
was able to receive that understanding, and it was a first for me.
It was a first, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's very common. So these six senses, as you raise your frequency, you are going to be seeing more of the world, and you're going to be experiencing more of the world and more of reality, because you're connecting to that crystalline consciousness within you, or that Christ light within you. And they've already scientifically proven this, that everybody is connected. So if you hurt somebody else, your brain has the same parts light up as if you're hurting yourself, because we're all connected. And when people within their consciousness, and they've proven this in science, that we can reach up to 11 dimensions within our brain, because that's how they can measure it now, is their brain. They're still working on learning how to measure the heart energy, but they know how to measure the brain in science. But as people become more higher dimensional awareness, they are going to tune into more of reality, which means you're going to tune into more people's unconscious musings.
Mm.
And I've actually had a client who came in because that was one of her first six senses, and it was overwhelming because it was like a freeway of nonstop paranoia, worry, guilt, all those negative things that people think. If you ever wanted to know what people think about, most of them are negative thoughts. That's most of people's negative thoughts that they have running in their head all the time. No wonder they're sick and tired all the time, because
Mm.
it's exhausting to constantly be talking bad about yourself and about everybody else, and worrying yourself to oblivion. But anyways, but I had a client who had that, and it was at first kind of cool, because she can not just feel the energy of different places and people, but she can kind of sense their emotions through their thoughts. And then it was not cool, because now she couldn't turn it off. So if you get to a part where it becomes overwhelming, you need to create boundaries, where you get to a natural point in your consciousness where you can just basically get into, you could do breathing, or just focusing on your thoughts, or just clearing out your thoughts. But you're going to need a reset. Like, okay, I clear this out. I'm going to walk through all this huge bustling city with all of these random thoughts. I'm not going to pick up any of their energy. I'm just blank. I'm going to have a great time. Okay, because it can be debilitating if that's a sixth sense that you come into. So just, depending on what happens, just gauge with it. It could work really well for you if you are hearing certain thoughts or feeling certain thoughts that are negative, as a warning of, oh, let's not go here. I'm not sensing anything good. Or, ooh, something good's going to happen over here. Let's go over here. Everybody's going to get, um, you know, a free meal or extra tickets or whatever. So it can work out. You can use that skill in that way. At the same time, if it becomes overwhelming and it's draining you, you also need to learn the skill of emptying out your thoughts and putting clear boundaries for how much you're going to let in. Okay, because it can't drain you, everybody else's negative thoughts. And this is what I do all the time with my sixth sense consultations. People will come through with different sixth senses as they're going into their awakening further, and they're leveling up their energy field further in their ascension process through doing all this consciousness work. Is different sixth senses will start coming in that they've never heard of or that they are not familiar with. And then it takes a little bit of adjusting. um, kind of like when we were teenagers and we kind of grew into a growth spurt of our bodies. It takes a little adjusting to kind of learn how to navigate without stumbling and falling all over the place. So that's what we're doing with our six senses. Okay. I actually had a client 2 days ago come in, and she really wanted to, it was a hypnosis client. She really wanted to kind of get higher in her spirituality. So we worked on some of the issues that she had in her life. And she didn't really have any relationship issues that would bring her down. It was her viewpoint about society that brought down her frequency. Okay. So, and she was empath, was just taking on everybody's energy, taking on society's turmoils, all that kind of stuff was bringing down. It was just sucking all her energy field.
Mm.
And so when she got to a point in seeing why she was always so fatigued and exhausted around people and taking on everybody's problems, which aren't even hers, all her mommy's issues, her brother's issues, her sister's issues, all the society's ramblings about whatever is not working for them. And she's just, you know, like a TV blaring constantly negative, 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 and she was taking it in. It was exhausting her, making her sick all the time. And so when she
Fun.
finally, yes, yes. So when she finally recognized that, she's like, oh, okay. And so we set some boundaries up. She did some clearing. She talked to Source. Source gave her some really great ideas for how to set boundaries. Because that was her sixth sense, was she was so empathetic that she was literally taking on their problems in her psyche, and it was making her sick. But then they left and they were feeling great. They got the garbage dump on her. They felt great. Next time they have problems, they come back to her and garbage dump their problems, and then she'll be, again. And I don't recommend that. So she learned what she was doing naturally that was lowering her frequency, and she learned how to, okay, boundaries. And then she emailed me the next day and she said, I feel so much better. But I used to have this sixth sense when I was a kid that I would see people's auras. Sometimes I have really like focus, but now I see everybody's aura all the time. Everybody's got a different color and it changes all the time. It's funny. She's like, I walked down the street. This guy's got a yellow aura. This guy's got a purple arrow. And oh, this guy's got a red aura. He's pissed off. Don't go right there. And everybody's had auras just, on all the time. And she's like, she's like, this is great. This is great. I know exactly who to talk to, who not to talk to, because I see their auras. And that's her sixth sense that came up once she got rid of her issue of society that was holding down her frequency. And so she's going to get used to that. And then if another sixth sense comes up, she'll need to adjust to that. So we're just constantly, it's more tools in the tool belt. Okay. So, and that's what's happening to a lot of people. It's nothing to be scared about, because it's just basically you're raising your energy field. And when you raise your energy field, you come into more of your skills. These are metaphysical skills.
I think it was super important, the fact that we took some time off, because we were feeling a little bit drained, from life in the city, and we are very sensitive to all of this. And also, when in the story that she told about her drawing all the mandalas, it was at a moment that, again, we had taken a vacation. So it's like you drop some some filters perhaps that we have for certain experiences or certain openings, and when you feel safe, when you feel relaxed, you're able to to experience this and to make it yourself to.
Right.
Yeah, in that six sense things, I don't know how to call them. I experienced so many different things that I don't know. It's so hard for me to put them on a label or in like boxes because
Mm-hmm.
I have so many weird experiences, and I don't know if I can label them as a sixth sense or something like that
Well,
because
tell me one of the most strange ones that you've had, because I've had different ones. So.
well, for example, I have seen this it was really, first of all, it was incredible that you asked
Mm-hmm.
for me to be in this interview, because when Rafa told me what is your work, I have so many experience where I saw the image of
Mm-hmm.
Maria or
Mm-hmm.
Mary, also Kuan Yin, and also they appear in my bedroom. I also
Mm-hmm.
saw these white, huge beings around my bed, like, for example, have dreams where last year in the 2019 I received a message during my dreams. In dreams,
Mm-hmm.
it's where everything happened for me sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I write it down in the middle of the night because it was like telling me everything that was going to happen in 2020.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And there were like these huge, light, feminine figures that
Mm-hmm.
were talking like telepathically, and they were telling me that everyone will see, everyone will be aware of what is happening. Trust, don't be scared because you don't have to be the one that is going to tell. Everything will see. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it was like an apocalyptic thing. And this happened on December, and in March happens all this, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, this kind of sounds like the dream I
Mhm.
have.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I have like many many stories,
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
very
we're all
difficult.
going through a metamorphosis.
Mhm.
We're going through metamorphosis, and the caterpillar is always scared and fighting when they know that it's going to go through a metamorphosis ahead of time.
Mm,
So, but as it's going through it, it's always scared and fighting, usually. But then once it comes out of it, not all, it becomes a butterfly, but not all caterpillars are going to fight and be scared. Some are just going to cocoon and just be like, oh, I guess this is what I'm doing. And then they come out and they're butterfly, like, ooh, this is different. So there's different ways in which you can experience that metamorphosis. Okay. And you'll learn a lot about yourself and how you deal with changes. Nothing's permanent, everything's always changing,
mm,
and there's always going to be positive change too. Not all change is bad. It
mm,
depends on how you see it. It's how you see
okay.
it. So but yeah, that's the thing. And then the other, the thing also, as we get into this higher awareness, is there are a lot of children that are coming in that are already in here now who are very, very high frequency. And they also have natural abilities as well. So, I work with a lot of parents who are trying to work with the kids and not subdue the kids' abilities, but at the same time, they're still kids, so they still need to get up a certain time to go to school, have the meals. They still need structure. And so there's a balance in trying to parent these high frequency kids, and then also kind of support them when sixth senses start coming up, so that they know when is appropriate time to use it and when is not appropriate time to use it. If you're able to interdimensionally see spirit beings or deceased loved ones or whatever, that's a great gift. Don't just start telling people that, because you might spook some people. Okay. So, and this is what kids do. They just tell everybody and stuff, but not all adults really want to know that you can see their grandma.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so if you, yeah, so there's a lot of different sixth senses that people come into, and I've been fortunate enough through my Buddhism background to be familiar with many of them and understand the metaphysics behind consciousness and raising consciousness and the six senses that get amplified and awaken as you go further into your consciousness evolution. I've also seen quite a bit of people have experiences with the multiverse as well. So where they're not just having their own personal Mandela effects, where like let's say the dog next door was always a white dog, and now all of a sudden the same dog has spots on its body that was never there before, and the owner is going, it's always been there. And so they're like, okay. But they're also having, I'm having clients that also have come into ability to experience a certain event happening, and then the very next day they are going to a concert and going, oh yeah, they did that song already, it was wonderful, and they're going, no, we're going to do this for the first time. So almost kind of like time traveling within their consciousness. That's a common sixth sense that is coming up for many people in this space. The other thing also is being aware of multiple versions of themselves and of other people. So where they're like, oh, in another reality, you did that. It didn't work out so good. So don't do that. Or because I was there and it was not good. And they're like, okay, I'll make sure not to do that. So just kind of, and so just kind of play with it. Don't take it too seriously, because if you take the outer reality too seriously, and you put so much emphasis on the outer reality behaving a certain way, when it completely changes on you,
Mm.
what do you do?
Mm.
Yeah, you're left feeling like you have no ground to stand on.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I had a client who's like, I was working on this garden. Now I'm back to beginning again. So, oh, so frustrating. I was like,
Well,
wow.
you know what? I had one day a few weeks ago. I was doing a cleanse. What's the name? A cleanse with. Well, I think it's called,
Detox.
yeah, a detox
Mm.
with herbs. And I remember one day I was just standing near the like outside, and I was writing a post. I was going to share something on Instagram, and like lots of very clear information started flowing, and I started writing and writing, and it was like, wow, this is perfect. This is like,
You're in the zone.
wow, it was amazing. And it was like new information that I didn't know, it just clicked many
Yeah.
things for me. And then I
So
was,
it's not coming from you because it's totally new to you.
yeah.
So all of a sudden you're in a higher frequency, and source or somebody is just giving you, here's some content.
And then I told her, wow, I was writing this stuff. It was amazing. And then I go open the cell phone to share to show her what I was writing. And the app that I was using to write it, I guess it doesn't autosave. So I guess the,
Oh.
the app refreshed or something. And when I go to show to her, it's like empty. And I was like, oh
Oh.
my God. So, but writing it all, some of it stuck.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
I had like a kind of a memory of what I had written. So I
Mhm.
started, I let it go. And then we went to the beach, I think. And then I let it go. And in the evening, when we came back, I started writing again. And I had like impressions of the thing that I was writing. And it was pretty good. It was about frequency and vibration and
It's
energy.
probably better the second time.
Yeah, probably so. But
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, what I know is that that information like clicked for me.
Mhm.
I was kind of sad that I wasn't able to share it, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but now I'm like somebody else, because I didn't know that information,
Hmm.
or there was like a few loose ends in some reasonings for me, and that information closed the gap between them, and closed the circuit, and now I understand those things, and it's yeah, just that for
Yeah.
myself, it was cool.
Yeah. 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 The really cool thing about being in the higher frequencies is that one, you're open to receiving, and so you're not seeing as a negative thing. And you know, there's a lot of different perspectives on these higher beings, whether they're aliens or whether they're angels or they're your ancestors or they're just source. It doesn't really matter because it's all connected. It's all one anyways.
Mm.
It's just ego trying to put labels and measure and all that kind of stuff. But it's just like Mary was saying earlier. It's really hard to express it all because you just have to experience it. It's like love. How do you describe love as it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how are you going to find all these other things? It When you're in that space of being loving and you work on yourself and you just happy and you just optimistic and positive, everybody sees you and naturally people just if you're dating, they just gravitate towards you. It's like bees to a flower. You're blooming and they're like, oh, I love it, I love it, I want more of that flower. So it's just it's just a natural flow of nature when you bloom as a lotus.
Mm.
And so it's just something to be experienced.
It's like
It's all it is. It's an experience.
you start like seeing those big energies that rule the universe, and it's the masculine and the feminine. And for me it's so clear that, because sometimes when you let go and flow and receive and attract, it's like the feminine energy, and when you do, you think, you create, is the masculine energy, and you need those two energies in this world to experience this life and to grow and to evolve. So for me it happened something very similar in on Christmas. I was writing something about Mary or Maria, because my first name is Maria. So I don't know what is your thoughts about this, but
Mhm.
I think that Maria maybe it's like a, it's not a name, but it was like
A title.
a title.
Mhm.
So I was writing a post about this that I never write before. I don't know, because I haven't studied this. It's so new to me. And
Mhm.
then when I was going to post it, it just disappeared. So I have this like thought, maybe it was too much. Maybe it wasn't the time to write this or to show this to your audience.
Mhm.
So I was like, yeah, feminine energy. You better don't show this just now. And it's like these two energies interacting. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
like you
It's the
said.
yin and the yang. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Male, female, yin, yang. It's a flow. It's a flow. So if you're too if you're too one and not the other,
Mm,
then you you may not you may be lacking a perspective. But sometimes when it comes to the creative process, because I do this in my book, sometimes when it comes to the creative process, you get the information early and then you sit on it for a while,
mm,
and then it kind of bakes out on its own, and then you start filling in. Like when I was doing I'm finally getting to around to finishing book 2 of my Buddhist Mandala series, and I was spending but the last 20 years just doing research and just blog writing for fun and all that kind of stuff. But before it happened, you know, all of a sudden one day, it was a thought that I never thought about in my life, just kind of boop, popped in my head, and I was like, what is this thing about fifth dimensional awareness and unity consciousness? What is unity consciousness? Like, what is unity consciousness? Okay. And so these concepts, look at the mandala again, Vaughn. And I'm like, I have been coloring mandalas my whole life and looking at mandalas and looking at these art murals my whole life. I don't understand what is the big whoop about it. I don't understand it, but I just kept having this nagging feeling of go back and look at it from fresh eyes, look at it from fresh eyes. Um, Continue to read the metaphysical research that comes out for your own amusement, but keep looking at these from fresh eyes. And over the course of 20 years, as I kept going back to the art history of Buddhist mandalas and Hindu mythology and looking at the art history, which I looked at a lot because I didn't read any of the books at the monasteries. I just looked at the art murals. I thought they were pretty because they always make them so pretty. Especially like the ones in Southeast Asia, they're always so artistic and pretty. Um, but as I started going back and looking at them over and over again with these concepts of unity consciousness, fifth dimensional, higher awareness, multiverse, these concepts, and then reading 20 years of research that was coming out in academia about these different studies in meditation and consciousness and the multiverse, etc., it started to back each other up. I started to get background to support what I knew, but now I got scientific and medical and scientific background to back up my understanding of Buddhist mandalas. And then it over the course of the time it kind of baked itself out, and then I was like, okay, now I have the material to finally put together in the book. But for a very long time I was like, why am I looking at mandalas over again? So it kind of happens that way where you're like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But sometimes some projects take longer to build out. So just be
Mhm.
open.
Mm.
Just be open to it.
Yeah, and you're like gathering materials
Mm-hmm.
some time before you build that thing. So Vaughn, could we go a little bit into couples and five and fifth dimension?
Sure, sure, sure.
Like how
So,
can we uh, walk this path together, get the discoveries and learn to share and to create intentions together, and to create them in a way that we can use the manifestation power on or the fifth dimensional power to of each one individually to like merge and you
mhm,
know.
mhm. Well, the thing is, when it comes to being higher frequency and continuing to work on leveling up your energy field and your consciousness, is that you guys have gotten a taste of this. The universe is highly abundant, and so is your creativity. It's almost too much. It's almost like, well, where do I start? I have so much. I'm so creative here. I got all this activity here. I really like this. I really like that. It's a lot. You have the opposite problem of you have too much creativity, too much inspiration. That is like, okay, how do I focus? How do I focus? Okay, and that's a good thing. I talk to a lot of writers and creative professionals who are trying to figure out how to use their channeling or use their intuitive insight into different realms and dimensions into writing sci-fi books and short stories and managed manuscripts and putting it into the video games that they make, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're constantly doing this work on yourself to get into higher and higher frequencies and to tune into that Christ crystalline consciousness within you, within the source, you tap into infinite wisdom and creativity. And so when if you're single, um, you will be attracting to you what you are. So if you don't like what you're seeing, work on yourself. That's my first suggestion. If you like what you're seeing, you may have to really focus, okay? Because you might get a couple of selections that are really, really good, but you have to focus on which one you really like. And usually, people usually gravitate to the right one anyways. They just know that this is the one. It's almost like your favorite pair of jeans or your favorite pet or your favorite whatever. it doesn't matter what's going on. It's still always going to be your favorite. It's still your go-to one. Okay. When you feel that, that's when you know, okay, I've found my match. Just, I don't care if there's a million beautiful men or women out there. Um, I'm happy with this one, and this one is the one I want to flourish with. So that's for single people. Now, if you're not single, like you two are, or if you're in a coupling of some sort, and you're both highly abundant and highly creative, you my suggestion is to one support each other, but also be practical. Somebody has to be practical, okay? Because you can kind of get so far into the clouds that you forget about practicality. Okay. You forget to
Mhm.
eat sometimes, or you forget to water the plants because you're in your studio all day. You forget to feed the kids, to feed the dog, take the dog for walks. Because you're so high in the clouds and you're so creative, it's that all of a sudden like 8 hours go by really fast, and you're like, where did the time go by? I was sitting there writing my book all day, and it just you're in the zone. You're in the higher dimensions, and when you're in the higher dimensions in your consciousness, time goes faster. Time goes faster, whereas everybody else is running slower, but time goes faster for you because you're in those higher dimensions. So sometimes you have to, like my husband has to remind me sometimes, hey, we have some things going on, and you have to keep order in your life, have an agenda, have an order, have some guidelines of things that you must do, some practical things. So you're gonna support each other, but then also keep each other on track, because it it when you're so highly creative, and things work in such a flow, it's like all the paths just open up, and you can be overwhelmed,
Mm.
and you can also go a couple of different paths but not go very far because you split off so many different avenues. So you might have to focus on just the things um, that you like the best, that has the best return for you, and focus on really get taking that to the next level and the next level and next level, and kind of say no to the other opportunities, because you have to focus. You can be a master of a couple things, or just okay on a lot of things. Okay. And that's something that you have to really choose. So, like I paint too, but I'm not really putting a lot of energy into my painting. I put energy into my books because that is where I want to finish and kind of continue taking to the next level. And my husband, his hobbies, he likes to play music, and so he started an 80s cover band, and he plays that on the festivals and does really good job with it. And we help each other in our creative pursuits. We both have full-time jobs as well, but we help each other in our creative pursuits in that, um, you know, I'll take the kids at a certain time so that he can take a show, or he'll take the kids so that I can take a client who has a sixth sense freak out session in China or somewhere. So I need 4 hours so you can watch the kids. So we'll work our schedules together and we'll support each other so that we both can thrive. And then my husband listens to my interviews and he gives me suggestions as well about who to interview with, who not to interview with, how to kind of guide, um, the conversation a little bit so that it's always going to be uplifting and positive. And I do the same thing for him, where I give him suggestions on, oh, when you're doing this on stage, try doing this. It'll be more engaging or whatever. So we're working with each other. There's no fighting over it. There's no argument over creative styles. There's no trying to one up on each other and compete with each other, trying to outshine each other. That's like a 3D relationship. It doesn't work in these higher dimensions. In these higher dimensions, the relationships just flow together and this just go higher and higher together. It's easy. Okay,
Right.
so that's my suggestion for
Mhm.
couples.
I see again. It's a balancing of the two energies.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's possible that when you are in this couple dimension, fifth dimension, you feel like the other is reflecting your two energies in you, like um, equilibrando,
Balancing.
balancing these two energies in you, and you are balancing these two energies in the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I feel like in our couple, I feel like it makes me balance these two things in myself, and
Mm-hmm.
this makes our couple run flow like easy. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely. You want to, I mean, if you found somebody that is your yang and you're the yin, okay, it's gonna flow. And don't like, sometimes it's easy to go, oh, that's not gonna work. But instead just go, okay, let's take a look at it, and why do you think that is a good suggestion? What's something I've done? And then look at it from different angles. It's you're like a partnership, you're like a business.
mm,
Okay. So y- you work cohesively together, and sometimes, I mean, like my husband will make suggestions on some things, and um and I'll ask him, hey, did you think I was a little bit too rough at that book interview or not? And do you listen to this? Or he'll look at, he does production for the band, so he'll look at my videos, and I was like, and make recommendations like, oh, I'm going to work on different lighting for you. You look too exposed, too overexposed, or you look too underexposed, or the background looks too dark, or whatever. So we're always tweaking things in motion. When I was doing the illustration with my artist for book 2, this is the proof version, but the real one doesn't have the line there. One of the things that I was grappling with was, how much skin do I want to show Tara in? So, and I was, I would ask my husband, I said, she's Indian, but it's a normal attire, but I want to represent her femininity and her, be unique to her, but at the same time not be too provocative. So how much lower can I put that skirt on her? So, and he said right to the hip bone. So I said, okay, fine, to the hip bone. So those are the things that we do. And then when I was doing the illustration for Kuan Yin, even though she has images of her much older, I asked my husband this, and he's like, well, when was it the age when she was, you know, at her prime, doing her awakening enlightenment? And I said, when she was 16, when her dad exiled her for not marrying another prince. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna draw her at 16.
mm.
So she's kind of a princess hipster. So so these are ideas from bouncing back to one another. Like, what do you
Yeah,
think? And
it's
even
great.
if I know what I want, like with my Four Noble Truths book with the flower, like I already knew what I want. I'll still ask him, what do you think about this?
Mm,
And he'll look it over, and he'll say, well, I like it. It's pretty good, but maybe 1.5 font for the paragraphing, because some people want to write something between the words, and it's easier to read
mm.
for print. So I'm like, let me look at my demographics, and I'm like, oh, okay, it works with the demographics. All right. So you see how easy it is to just kind of have a conversation. I'm not taking it personal. I'm not taking it personal. It's not hurting my feelings. I'm just going, well, it's a different perspective. Let me look at that. And sometimes I'll go, no. I looked at it, I said no. And other times I'll go, well, it doesn't hurt. Okay, let's try it. Let's try it. So,
Yeah.
and I do that with his band as well. So, and I give recommendations as well. And that's really how
Mm.
a higher frequency relationship is. There's no trying to bully each other into something else. There's no trying to push your opinion onto somebody else. There's no trying to, um, compete against somebody else. Like, oh, if you're really successful, I have to be more successful in my career. Um, all of those. kind of things. There's no like, even if things aren't working out,
Mm.
because I have friends who asked during the pandemic, because we have careers that are susceptible to kind of downsizing. So we always talk about the worst case scenarios. What if the worst case scenario happens? What happens? And we're like, well, then we just downsize. We just simplify our life. We just downsize, and we just work, go into a smaller house. Everything is much more refined, and live our life that way. It's not a biggie
Mm.
if things change to shrink or to expand or to shrink or whatever. Our identity is not attached to how big our house is or how small our house is, or whatever. So we're the same people. We're just moving along with the changes of reality.
Mm.
So but for some people that is a big thing.
Mm.
They will fight for blood just to over losing their livelihood in different areas of their life. So and those things are going to happen.
Mm.
Things are going to happen that's out of our control. It might be a pre-life plan that we set for ourselves as a challenge to overcome. uh, we don't know, but unforeseen things are going to happen in relationships, and how you address it together is telling of your consciousness level. And if you're a higher frequency, a higher consciousness, you're going to kind of like water, meander through it much more smoothly, without trying to be the ice and trying to all over trying to get through the cracks.
Mm,
Okay, that's the type of relationships, these higher energy relationships flow through discourse and adversity.
mm.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you, thank you. Now, so yeah, lots of collaboration is what I hear, um, and of acknowledging that the other person perhaps is holding a certain balance of the energy that one is holding, and that that other perspective will necessarily inform one's own, and even complement it, and help it improve. Perhaps
Mm-hmm.
your husband would suggest something uh, that would, perhaps you would say no to the suggestion, but that suggestion would spark another idea inside you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
Yeah, yeah. Be
It's
open it. Don't just be open to it, but at the same time, be practical, because we have a tendency to get so far in the clouds that we forget to put our feet on the ground. And oh yeah, there's some practical aspects to this that we have to think about as well. So uh, just kind of like earlier when you had the discussion about charging for your services,
mm,
that's the practical aspect of it.
yeah.
Mm.
Okay, because you're not going to be able to keep the retreat going if you don't charge for your services,
Mm.
and people aren't going to want to come if it's you can't afford to make it a pleasant experience. So there's some practical aspects
Definitely.
of how you create your reality as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm. Well, would you like to add something else?
No, I think we are good.
Uh,
It
Okay.
was
Well,
amazing.
I always end with the last message from source in all my book
mhm,
interviews, if I may. So I do these hypnosis sessions, which are both online and also in person, and I've done plenty of online hypnosis sessions, and they work exactly the same. You get the source consciousness come through. You can speak to your deceased loved ones. You can speak to anybody in creation, get answers to all your questions. So, but when I do them, I get the same message from source, from universal consciousness and everybody. It's the same personality or being I talk to. So over the years, I just put it into this one simple message, which is what source wants everyone to know, which is that you've always been enough. Use the gift and resources all around you to create a life that you want to experience, a life full of joy and love. And the spirit world will nudge you through synchronicity, and you can do it. So take that with you, guys, and have fun creating with the 5D energies.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you.
that
All
was
right.
really beautiful. Thank you so much, Vaughn. Would you like to share where people can find you?
Yes. So all of my books and my podcasts and materials is on my website, which will be on the show description as well, which is Merkaba chakras, like your 7 chakras.com. So merkabachakras.com. And if you have a sixth sense that you don't know how to work with, or that you don't know how to place an understanding for, go ahead and hit me up. I have plenty of people that I do sixth sense consultation with. And I just quickly consult with you, get you on your way until the next time it happens with a new one.
And
Thank you.
I'm very drawn to not only to the books that I really want to read them, but also to the idea of the hypnosis sessions. I'm feeling very much like an affinity of working with you. So maybe we can talk about that at some other point.
Sure, sure. We'll put it on the calendar.
Yeah, and well, this has been great fun. I hope we can do it again in a very soon. I want to thank, of course, you, Vaughn, and I want to thank you, Mer, for joining us. This was her first podcast, and
Sorry.
she no, you don't need to be sorry. It was
Yeah,
great.
it was good energy. It's good energy, the two of you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I want to thank everybody for joining us, everybody that's watching, for 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 being there during this process. For me, creating a podcast, as Vaughn knows as well, it's a very nice experience, and starting to get responses and communications with the audience is also amazing. So I'm really happy to be on this journey, and I thank both of you and all the audience for joining and being part of this. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Bye bye.
Bye.